I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. One day after a federal judge in the Southern District of Florida sanctioned Donald Trump and his lawyer Alina Habba almost $1 million for bringing a frivolous lawsuit in his court, Donald Trump has decided to drop or voluntarily dismiss another federal lawsuit that is also pending before the same judge who issued the sanctions order, Judge Donald Middlebrooks. This case that Donald Trump voluntarily dismissed earlier in the day on Friday is the frivolous lawsuit that Donald Trump filed against New York Attorney General Letitia James back on November 2nd of 2022, when Donald Trump filed this frivolous lawsuit purportedly to try to slow down or block New York Attorney General Letitia James' pending lawsuit in New York State Court that was pending before the Judge Arthur Engoron there. There's absolutely no basis of jurisdiction for Donald Trump to file the lawsuit that he did initially in the 15th Circuit Court of Palm Beach County in Florida. It got removed to federal court, but there's no jurisdiction for a Florida court to have anything to do with New York Attorney General Letitia James pursuing a civil lawsuit against Donald Trump under the New York Attorney General statute. And just for your reference, that is the case where Tish James is seeking at least $250 million based on Donald Trump and his adult children's fraudulent valuation schemes over the course of many, many years in New York. And that case also would have injunctive relief if granted when the trial takes place in October, which for all purposes would basically shut down the Trump organization forever doing business in New York. And the way Trump tried to somehow make this have to do with Florida is that he claimed that one of the discovery requests that originated as part of the special proceeding launched by the New York Attorney General, which is the precursor to the lawsuit that New York Attorney General Letitia James filed in September of 2022, that it was requesting information about Donald Trump's revocable trust, which he said had jurisdiction in Florida. And so he tried to use this vexatious and frivolous lawsuit in Florida to try to stop discovery proceedings on the action that New York Attorney General Letitia James filed in New York. And then in addition to that, Trump then amended the complaint about 10 days after he filed it in Florida in the Palm Beach County 15th Circuit Court to then claim that, no, I'm not suing New York Attorney General Letitia James in her capacity as a New York Attorney General. I'm suing her just as an individual, because he was trying to get around some of the immunities that are given to a New York Attorney General, which the case would still get dismissed anyway. And Judge Middlebrooks, who is the same judge who just sanctioned Donald Trump approximately $1 million in the frivolous RICO or racketeering lawsuit, is the judge that was ultimately assigned this case that Donald Trump filed against New York Attorney General Tish James. It's like perfect poetic justice there. And the way it got to Judge Middlebrooks is that it started in the state court system. And then because there was a case against somebody in New York, the case gets removed to federal court. And then it got randomly assigned to Judge Middlebrooks. And one of the requests that Donald Trump had previously made to Judge Middlebrooks in that case before this sanctions order was handed down by Judge Middlebrooks was to issue an injunction to stop the proceedings or the discovery that Letitia James was seeking. And in that order, the Judge Middlebrooks had actually warned Donald Trump there, basically that you should dismiss this case because this case is frivolous, because it's not likely to succeed. It has no chance of succeeding on any of the claims, the judge stated. And then in a footnote 6 in the order where Judge Middlebrooks had denied Donald Trump's injunctive relief in the Letitia James case, this is what Judge Middlebrooks wrote, and this was handed down December 21 of 2022, so almost a month ago, and before the sanctions order was handed down. Middlebrooks writes, plaintiffs and plaintiffs' lawyers, Trump and Trump's lawyers, are urged to reconsider their opposition to defendant's motion to dismiss. Defendant is New York Attorney General Letitia James. This litigation, Judge Middlebrooks writes in this footnote, has all the telltale signs of being both vexatious and frivolous. So in this lawsuit against New York Attorney General Letitia James, Judge Middlebrooks had warned Donald Trump that this is a frivolous lawsuit and I'm likely going to sanction you if you don't voluntarily dismiss it. But like all malignant narcissists, Donald Trump didn't dismiss it and he proceeded until today. And today we got Donald Trump voluntarily dismissing it because when you stand up to bullies, when you actually follow the law and you don't give these bullies and these fascists an inch, what you realize very quickly is that they're not just traitors, but they are complete cowards. And the MAGA movement is built on a foundation of traitors and cowards, which is the shakiest foundation of them all. And so when finally you have a judge like Middlebrooks holds him accountable and sanctions him $1 million, what does the coward, what does the traitor Donald Trump do? He voluntarily dismisses his case against New York Attorney General Letitia James before Judge Middlebrooks because he is afraid of more sanctions. When you have accountability, people are held accountable. Just think about that logic. This is Donald Trump's voluntary dismissal without prejudice motion or notice that he filed today. He goes, plaintiff, President Donald J. Trump. He still calls himself the president. You're not the president anymore. So I'm going to take that part out. Plaintiff Donald J. Trump, by and through his undersigned counsel and pursuant to Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 41A1AI, hereby voluntarily dismisses his claims in this action against defendant Letitia James without prejudice, dated January 20th, 2023. Now, without prejudice means that he can technically refile or bring the case again, but that has a it's very unlikely to happen based on this. But now, because it was dismissed without prejudice and because it was dismissed, I think New York Attorney General Letitia James still has the opportunity to seek sanctions or to seek fees and costs based on Donald Trump bringing this frivolous lawsuit on November 2nd and then filing a frivolous amended complaint suing her in her individual capacity, which he is completely frivolous. One of the things of note as well before Donald Trump voluntarily dismissed this, in Judge Middlebrooks' order of January 19th, where he sanctioned Donald Trump and Alina Habba approximately $1 million. There's a whole section here where the judge goes over a pattern of abuse of the courts by Donald Trump. This starts on page 21, and Judge Middlebrooks says, look, I've explained why the totality of problems with the complaint, amended complaint, and the arguments and statements of plaintiff's counsel show that this lawsuit was filed and prosecuted in bad faith. But this case is part of Mr. Trump's pattern. Notice he calls him Mr. Trump. It's important. Language matters. He's not President Trump. He's Mr. Trump. But this case is part of Mr. Trump's pattern of misusing the courts to serve political purposes. Federal courts have both inherent power and constitutional obligations to protect their jurisdiction from conduct that impairs their ability to carry out Article 3 functions. And then the judge proceeds on page 22 of his order, granting over close to $1 million in sanctions against Trump and Alina Habba. He talks about all these frivolous lawsuits. So the first one he talks about is Trump suing the Pulitzer Prize Board as an example. The second example he gives is this case, Trump versus the New York Attorney General. This starts on page 24, and it goes through and it recounts the frivolous nature of Donald Trump's lawsuit. It talks about how Donald Trump in December of 2021 filed a federal lawsuit that he lost in, where he sued New York Attorney General Letitia James in the Northern District of New York. He sued her in federal court in Syracuse, and he lost there, where the claims were frivolous. And now He sued her again here after her special proceeding, after the New York attorney's special proceeding, after this case that's presiding in a New York court before Judge Arthur Engoron. You're filing a federal lawsuit, and then you're amending the complaint to try to all of a sudden say that, no, you're not suing New York Attorney General Letitia James as the Attorney General. You're suing her in her individual capacity. And the judge is like, this is beyond frivolous. And the judge pointed out in the order from January 19th, he points out that he had previously warned Trump when denying the preliminary injunction in the Letitia James lawsuit that Donald Trump filed, that Donald Trump could face sanctions for that case. Then the judge goes through on page 29, the Trump v. Twitter lawsuit, Trump versus CNN lawsuit. And the judge also talks about, Judge Middlebrooks talks about, there's a pattern of frivolousness when Donald Trump brings these cases. And this is what the court says. Mr. Trump's deliberate use of a frivolous lawsuit for an improper purpose constitutes bad faith. And the behavior is not unique, but part of a plan, or at least a playbook. The telltale signs are as follows: provocative and boastful rhetoric, a political narrative carried over from rallies, attacks on political opponents and the news media, disregard for legal principles and precedent, fundraising and payments to lawyers from political action committees, and, when a ruling is adverse, accusations of bias on the part of judges, often while the litigation is ongoing. And in that order, Judge Middlebrooks, of course, we've talked about this on another video, sanctioned Donald Trump and Alina Habba $1 million. So less than 24 hours after that order happened on Thursday, then on Friday, what does Donald Trump do? He dismisses the lawsuit he files against New York Attorney General Letitia James in Florida. You know who I think is really paying attention to this as well? I think the Manhattan District Attorney is. I think Special Counsel Jack Smith is. I think the Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis is. I think anybody who cares about law and order should focus on this as a perfect case study on the importance of it. You give Trump an inch, you give him just an inch, and he goes for your throat, or in this case, the throat of our democracy, the throat of our institutions, the throat of normalcy. So you can't give him an inch. When he engages in this conduct, you have to be strong, and you have to be decisive, and you have to make sure that your orders and your conduct is powerful and sends a message to the cowards. Because anytime someone stands up to them, they back down. And this is a perfect example of it here with Donald Trump dismissing voluntarily, backing down, declaring defeat in his lawsuit against New York Attorney General Letitia James, which should never have been brought in the first place. Folks, we talk about the wheels of justice here on the MeidasTouch network. This is how they move. Slowly, methodically, but always towards justice. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch network. Hit the subscribe button. We're on our way to 1 million subscribers now, thanks to your support. So if you haven't subscribed, if you are new to this channel, welcome. Hit subscribe, or make sure your friends, family, colleagues, coworkers all hit subscribe. And also, while you're here, you know about our Patreon site, right? It's a membership site where we have exclusive content and first access to releases of our videos. You go to patreon.com/MeidasTouch, patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Join one of the memberships. We're actually doing an exclusive Zoom meeting this weekend with our patrons. So if you can, make sure you subscribe before it's too late so you can join that chat with us and see us on Zoom. Until next time, I'm Ben Meiselas. Thank you so much for watching this video.
At MeidasTouch, we are unapologetically pro-democracy, and we demand justice and accountability. That's why we're spreading our message to Convict 45. That's right, gear up right now with your Convict 45 tees and pins at store.meidastouch.com. That's store.meidastouch.com.